This event took place when I was a small child, so unfortunately, I don't remember every little detail, but I remember nearly all of it. Anyway, this happened when I was around 4 or 5 years old, on Easter Sunday. My family always gathers at my grandmother's house to celebrate holidays, birthdays, and things like that. So, as we do every holiday, my mother and I started our hour-long trip to her house. My mother prefers to live away from all the city commotion, which explains the long drive. We were probably about 20 minutes from our destination when my mom noticed we were running a bit low on gas. She pulled into this old, almost rustic-looking gas station with just a handful of customers inside. It was red and white, with a few festive decorations outside and a few Easter stickers on the 2 large glass windows on either side of the door. My mom had taught me not to talk to strangers or open the car doors for anyone but her, and she trusted me enough to leave me in the car alone while she went inside briefly to pay for the gas. She told me she'd be right back and walked into the gas station. It was a nice day, and the windows were rolled down so we could feel the breeze instead of using the AC. While I waited, I remember adjusting the colorful paper shreds in my Easter basket next to me, then glancing out the backseat window. That's when I saw him. A tall, middle-aged man, maybe in his 30s or 40s, was slowly approaching my window. He crouched slightly and looked me directly in the eyes, and with a low, ominous tone and weird smile on his face, he said,
"Hey there, what's your name, baby girl?"
I remembered not to talk to strangers, so I said, "My mom says I shouldn't speak to strangers." He grinned and replied with that creep-ass voice,
"Well, we can be friends then. My name's Charlie. Now that you know my name, I guess I'm not a stranger anymore, huh?"
At the time, that logic made sense to me. In my young 5-year-old mind, a stranger was just someone you didn't know. And I knew his name now, so I thought maybe he wasn't a stranger anymore. We had a short conversation that I don't fully remember. I only recall him saying I had a nice Easter basket. But somewhere during that exchange, something shifted. I started to feel sick in my stomach. Not physically, I just felt like this was wrong. Really wrong. I didn't know why, but I wanted him to go away. Then, my mom came out of the gas station. She spotted him right away and immediately started walking fast toward the car, her voice sharp with panic as she yelled, "What do you think you're doing?" The man froze. Then, in a panic, he lunged for the car door and pulled at the handle violently. Thankfully, it was locked. That's when he reached in through the open window, grabbed my wrist, and tried to yank me out. I remember the shock of it, the sudden fear. I screamed at the top of my lungs and pulled against him with everything I had. He let go, cursed under his breath, and took off running. My mom sprinted to the car. I unlocked the door, and she pulled me into her arms, squeezing me in a bear hug so tight it almost hurt. She looked me over, asking again and again if I was okay. Her hands was shaking. I had a small bruise where he grabbed my arm, just a red mark, really, but I was more shaken than anything else. When I was finally able to get some words out, I muttered, "I'm okay, Mom." The weight of it all hit me, and I broke down crying. I clung to my mom, sobbing into her shoulder. I don't remember anything after that. But recently, I asked my mom about it. She told me she called the police immediately afterward. To this day, she still says it was the most frightening moment of her life. She's told me more than once that if she had come back to an empty car, she doesn't think she would have been able to live with herself. Hey, I have a lot of these stories, and I think sharing them may be cathartic for me. This particular experience happened to me about 4 years ago, when I was 21. It was Easter, broad daylight. Maybe around 11 a.m. I was in the fashion district of my big city, which is relatively safe during the day. I'd never had any real run-ins with crazy, even though I saw homeless people and unwell folks all the time, talking to themselves or pacing around. I was usually pretty good at keeping my head down and sensing danger before it happened, or so I thought. Anyway, I was looking for a nice shoe store. I passed a homeless woman who was either on drugs, mentally unwell, or both. I made note of her, but kept walking. It was Easter, the sun was out, and there were plenty of people around. She was sitting on the edge of the sidewalk, yelling at herself. I went into my store a couple blocks down, finished shopping, passed her again on my way to another store. And then, when I passed by her a third time, that must have been the last straw for her. She suddenly decided she knew me. I saw her get up, her eyes locking on me, and she started screaming at me. "Fuck you, bitch. Stupid fucking bitch. You thought I wouldn't know it was you, bitch." Then she charged me. It all happened so fast. Before this, I'd been having a gentle Easter morning. I didn't even have my car keys or pepper spray out yet. I turned and bolted toward my car. She was right behind me. When I reached my car, I spun around. She was right there. I sized her up. She was filthy, with open sores on her arms and wild, erratic movements. I remember thinking to myself, I don't want to fight her. Not that I could fight anyway, but I knew this wasn't the time to learn. Another thought flashed through my mind. If I stay next to my car, she might trash it while trying to get to me. And of course, I couldn't find my keys in time. She lunged and tried to sucker punch me in the back of the neck, but I ducked and ran. She barely missed me. This all happened in seconds, 10 at most, and no one was trying to help me. Despite it being a busy street, people just walked by. I was screaming. By sheer luck, I ran into the last store I'd been in. If it had been another store, one that didn't know me, I honestly think they would have kicked me out for causing a scene. I live in a big city. Shopkeepers don't always want drama, even when it's not your fault. But I digress. I ran in the store, crying, telling the man behind the counter about the woman. Seconds later, she came in after me. I hid behind the counter, begging him to help. I told him she tried to hit me and wouldn't let me get to my car. He must have recognized her. Maybe she was known in the area. Either way, he held her back for me while I got out of there and made it to my car. The whole time, she was still screaming, trying to push past him to get to me. I made it to my family's Easter gathering safely, but I avoided that part of the city for a couple of years afterward. I've always wanted to go back and thank that man. I really don't know what would have happened if he hadn't been there, or how I would have gotten to my car. To the crazy lady who thought she knew me and wanted to punch me in the street on Easter, let's not fucking meet again. This happened to me many, many years ago, on Easter. I would say about close to 20 years ago at this point, but I still think about it from time to time. I've even used this story to teach my kids never to open the door for people they don't know. I was just a kid, and we lived in a really big, old house that used to be part of a farm. It sat off a semi-busy road, but the area was still rural. The house itself was massive, with a large formal living room and an equally large dining room directly behind it. There was a big double front door that opened onto a covered porch, and a side door that led into the dining room. My mom was doing laundry way in the back of the house, and I was in the living room watching television when there was a knock at the side door. I wasn't supposed to open the door, but I figured I could at least peek. I looked through the curtain on the side door, and I couldn't believe my eyes. It was the Easter Bunny. Of course, looking back now, I know it was just a man in a costume, but at the time, I thought it was really him. When he saw me, he did a little hop and asked me to let him in. I just stood there in shock, staring. He wore a pink suit and held a basket with colorful eggs hanging from his arm. He knocked again, this time acting impatient. He said, "Little girl, are you going to let me in so I can hide these eggs for you?" I wanted those eggs, but he was a stranger, right? But he was the Easter Bunny. Can the Easter Bunny even be a stranger? So I asked him who he was. He sighed and said, "I'm the Easter Bunny, and you have to let me in right now so I can hide my eggs. Invite me in. You have to, or you won't get any." I reached out to unlock the door, but then it was something that hit me and told me not to open that door. Something about the way he said that last part felt wrong. I hesitated and told him I was going to ask my mom first. His expression changed. "No," he said sharply. "You have to invite me in. I'm here to see you. These are for you." That's when I really started to feel scared. His voice wasn't playful anymore. It was urgent and desperate. I turned and ran, yelling for my mom. I found her in the laundry room and told her there was a big Easter Bunny at the front door who wanted to come in. She laughed and said, "Well, let me go see." We walked back up to the front door. Nothing. No Easter Bunny. No person. Not even footprints on the porch. He was just gone. My mom looked at me like I was full of it. She told me to sit on the couch and think about why lying wasn't okay. Later that evening, my dad came home from work. He told my mom there had been a robbery just a few miles away. A little boy had opened the door to a man, who then tied up both him and his mom and robbed the house. I found out years later that the guy had beaten the mother pretty badly. There was no mention of a bunny suit. But what better way to get a kid to open the door? Anyway, that was strike one for that house. This happened when I was a very gullible teenager who didn't have any friends outside of school. My parents were mostly absent from my life, so I got used to entertaining myself and taking care of my basic needs. But it wasn't like I lived in a rough neighborhood that taught me street smarts or anything. I was just a weird suburban loner. During spring break one year, I found myself wandering around the mall. I wouldn't do much besides window shopping, just walk around until my legs started cramping up. That's when I saw that the Easter Bunny area had already been set up ahead of the holiday. I knew I was a little too old to be getting those kinds of pictures taken, but I guess I was jealous of everyone else who got to go with their parents, something I was never able to do with mine. When I got in line, it was moving along at a decent pace. I noticed that most of the kids getting their pictures taken weren't spending much time with the Easter Bunny. A lot of them were running away, screaming and crying after just a few seconds. This didn't raise any red flags. I just assumed it was a bunch of wimpy kids who were forced by their parents to take a picture with the giant bunny. When it was finally my turn, I walked over to the Easter Bunny and heard him say something real creepy like, "Have a seat on my lap. Let's make this a good memory." I blushed with embarrassment, though I couldn't quite figure out why. I just sort of went along with it. Then he said, in a hair-raising tone, "There we go, nice and cozy." Then the camera clicks. That's when the bunny grabbed me around the waist and shifted me toward the middle of his lap, supposedly to face the camera. But that wasn't the only weird thing that happened. As the photographer snapped the pictures, the Easter bunny leaned in and whispered, "Hey, little guy, you want an Easter egg? I made them myself. They're pretty good as long as you're okay with a lot of egg whites." Looking back, it was clear he was taking advantage of the fact that he was masked and that there was a lot of noise around us, enough to make sure no one could hear what he was saying. I should have said no, but like I said, I was gullible back then. So I just said, "Sure." Just then, the photographer gave us the signal that he was done. "Over already? What a shame, but weren't you so well behaved? I wish the rest were more like you." The bunny gave me a pat on the back as I got off his lap, but before I could walk away, he leaned in and whispered again, "You're the best one I've had all day. So how about this? Meet me in the bathroom over there in a few minutes, and I'll get you that Easter egg I promised. Sound good?" Yeah, thank you," I said. "Run along now. I can't wait to see you later," he said. I walked past the photographer and picked up my free photo. Then I headed to the bathroom the bunny pointed out. I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off, but I honestly thought I was about to get some kind of prize or high-value gift. That's how naive I was. The bathroom was empty, so I walked all the way to the last stall and locked the door while I waited. A few awkward minutes passed before I heard the main door open and someone walk in. Then things got disturbing. I heard them lock the bathroom door. That's when the feeling finally clicked into place. Something was very wrong. Whoever just walked in had trapped me inside. I immediately regretted ever agreeing to this and lifted my legs off the ground to hide. My heart felt like it was going to beat out of my chest. Suddenly, the person kicked open one of the stalls. I nearly jumped out of my skin as that horrible chill ran down my spine. It was only a matter of time before they figured out which one I was in. "Stop hiding from me, you little vermin. Don't you want your prize for being so good on my lap?" I heard them kick open the stall right next to mine. I was so afraid I started biting my nails just to keep myself from making a sound. Then, silence, except for the deafening sound of my heartbeat in my skull. I slowly looked up, expecting to see the Easter bunny peering over the top of the stall door, but he wasn't there. I started to feel the faintest bit of relief, until the most nightmarish sight became real. I looked down and saw him staring up at me from under the stall door. I screamed as he grabbed my ankles and yanked me off the toilet. I kicked and squirmed and struggled as he dragged me out from under the stall. "Shh, someone might come in. Just shut up." He dragged me toward one of the open stalls, trying to pull me inside. But in that moment, pure survival kicked in. I managed to pry his fingers off me, scramble to my feet, and break free. I bolted for the door, unlocked it, pulled it open, and sprinted out into the mall. Just in time. Everything after that was a blur. People rushed to help me as the chaos unfolded. Once I explained what happened, it didn't take long to track him down. The Easter bunny tried to get away, but let's be real, he was pretty identifiable. He was arrested within minutes. Turns out the man playing the Easter bunny was a known predator with multiple outstanding warrants. He'd lied his way into the job just to get access to more innocent people. This story was inspired by a real case involving a 53-year-old man who managed to get hired as both a mall, Santa, and Easter Bunny at different times, just so he could prey on kids. He was eventually linked to multiple assaults, and counting.